The black robe, symbol of dominion, cloak of illusion. Across the world's courtrooms, pulpits, and tribunals, one symbol remains hauntingly consistent: the black robe. It is worn by judges who pass sentence, attorneys who argue the law, magistrates who interpret it, public prosecutors who enforce it, and priests who claim to guide the soul. This garment is not a mere tradition. It is a ritual vestment, a cloak of dominion, and a visual declaration of authority. Its presence is universal. Its meaning, however, is obscured. At first glance, the robe appears ceremonial, an emblem of solemnity, professionalism, and respect. But beneath the surface lies a deeper, more troubling truth. The robe is not neutral. It is not benign. It is a symbolic shroud, worn by those who perform acts of judgment, prosecution, and spiritual governance, not as servants of truth, but as agents of a system built on illusion. Why is it black? Why must it be worn to perform? According to esoteric knowledge and the living law principles embraced by the Flanders Republic Law Group Corp, the black robe is a ritualistic garment rooted in ancient systems of control. It is the uniform of a forgotten priesthood, one that does not serve divine law, but rather corporate dominion, statutory fiction, and spiritual subjugation. The robe conceals more than the body. It conceals the origin of authority. It masks the transformation of the living man or woman into a legal abstraction, a person, defendant, subject. It is worn not to uphold justice, but to invoke jurisdiction, to enforce contracts, and to ritualize power. This priesthood, whether judicial or ecclesiastical, operates not through transparency, but through symbolism, not through truth, but through performance. The robe is the costume. The courtroom is the stage. The pulpit is the altar. And the people, unaware of the ritual, become participants in a drama they did not consent to. The Flanders Republic Law Group Corp calls for the unveiling of this illusion. It urges a return to living law, where sovereignty is recognized and authority is earned, not worn. The black robe, once exposed, is no longer a symbol of justice. It is a relic of control, a garment of forgotten rituals, a cloak that binds only those who do not see. Saturnian symbolism, the cult of control. The color black, worn by judges, prosecutors, and priests, is not a matter of tradition or aesthetic preference. It is a deliberate invocation of Saturnian power. In esoteric traditions, black is the sacred color of Saturn, the ancient planetary archetype long associated with authority, limitation, and control. Saturn is not merely a celestial body. It is a symbol of dominion over time, structure, and consequence. It is the archetype of law, of karma, of boundaries that bind. Saturn governs contracts, restrictions, and the cold mechanics of judgment. It is the planetary force behind systems that regulate life through rules, rituals, and artificial constructs. Its influence is not warm or benevolent. It is rigid, calculating, and absolute. In occult philosophy, Saturn is the hidden guard of law and structure, the silent architect of systems that appear neutral but are designed to dominate. The black robe, then, is not a garment of justice. It is a vestment of Saturnian allegiance. It is worn by those who administer law not as servants of truth, but as agents of control. It is the uniform of a priesthood that enforces boundaries, not freedom. It signals not impartiality, but submission to a planetary archetype that values order over life. This is why the robe is worn in courts of law, where living men and women are symbolically stripped of their natural status and reduced to legal fictions, corporate entities, defendants, subjects. The robe is worn in churches, where spiritual authority is claimed not through divine connection, but through ritual and hierarchy. It is worn in tribunals, where decisions are made not in service of truth, but in service of systemic control. The robe is not neutral. It is a ritual tool. a symbol of a cult of control that operates through illusion, language, and symbolism. Those who wear it may not know its origin, but they participate in its power. They invoke Saturn, whether consciously or not, and they enforce its dominion over the living. To expose the robe is to expose the system. To understand its symbolism is to begin the process of liberation. The robe is not justice, it is Saturn's cloak, and it binds only those who do not see. The courtroom as a temple. Modern courts are not neutral spaces. They are not merely administrative halls where justice is dispensed impartially. They are ritual chambers, architecturally, linguistically, and symbolically designed to mirror the ancient temples of priesthood and sacrifice. Every element within the courtroom serves a purpose, not just in law, but in ritual. The judge sits elevated, not by accident, but by design. This elevation is symbolic of priesthood, of spiritual and legal superiority. It echoes the high altars of ancient temples, where priests presided over rites that determined the fate of souls. In the courtroom, the judge does not merely interpret law, he performs a rite. He presides over a transformation of status, identity, and sovereignty. The black robe worn by the judge is not a uniform, it is a vestment. It signifies priesthood, not of divine law rooted in natural justice, but of corporate and statutory dominion. It is the garment of a Saturnian ritual, where the living are cloaked in fiction and bound by contracts they did not knowingly enter. The robe is the symbol of authority derived not from truth, but from performance. The language spoken within the courtroom, legalese, is not the language of the people. It is a coded dialect, deliberately constructed to obscure meaning, to confuse, and to bind. It is the incantation of a legal priesthood designed to transform living men and women into artificial entities, persons, defendants, corporate bodies. These terms are not neutral, they are masks. They are roles assigned in a ritual drama where the outcome is predetermined by the structure itself. The courtroom is not a place of justice. It is a stage, a performance, a ritual space where the living are symbolically sacrificed, not in body, but in status. They are stripped of their natural rights, their sovereign identity, and reborn as legal constructs. The robe is the costume of this transformation. The bench is the altar. The gavel is the hammer of judgment, echoing ancient rites of finality and fate. To enter the courtroom is to enter a temple of control. To stand before the judge is to stand before a high priest of statutory dominion. And to submit to the process is to participate in a ritual that most do not understand. The power of the courtroom lies not in its laws, but in its symbolism. And once that symbolism is exposed, the illusion begins to unravel. The courtroom is not sacred. It is scripted. And the robe, the language, the architecture, they are the tools of a system that governs not through justice, but through ritualized fiction. The living must awaken to this truth and reclaim the law that serves life, not the temple that binds it. Living law versus dead law. At the heart of the modern legal system lies a profound deception, one that separates the living from their rights, their sovereignty, and their very identity. The Flanders Republic Law Group Corp stands in direct opposition to this deception. It does not merely critique the system, it seeks to dismantle it and restore the primacy of living law. Living law is not written in statutes. It is not codified in corporate charters or enforced through bureaucratic ritual. Living law is the recognition of natural rights, divine sovereignty, and the sacred essence of human life. It is the law that flows from conscience, from truth, and from the inherent dignity of every man and woman born into this world. In contrast, statutory law is a system of control. It does not recognize the living, it redefines them. It treats individuals not as sovereign beings, but as corporate entities, artificial constructs, and legal fictions. It replaces truth with procedure. It replaces soul with paperwork. It replaces freedom with compliance. The black robe worn by judges, attorneys, and prosecutors is the symbol of this transformation. It marks the moment when the living are stripped of their essence and reclassified as subjects of the system. It is the garment of ritual bondage, not justice. It signifies the shift from sovereign soul to controlled subject, from living man or woman to legal fiction, from freedom to ritual bondage. This transformation is not accidental. It is ritualized. It is performed in courtrooms, in administrative hearings, and in religious ceremonies. It is the foundation of a system that governs not through consent, but through illusion. The robe is not sacred. It is a relic, a costume, a tool of deception designed to obscure truth and enforce submission. Living law rejects this authority. It does not bow to robes, titles, or rituals. It asserts that no external symbol can override the inherent freedom of the living. No judge, no priest, no prosecutor has dominion over the soul. The law that governs life must serve life, not control it. The Flanders Republic Law Group Corp calls for a return to this truth. It calls for the recognition of the living as sovereign. It calls for the dismantling of the rituals that bind, and the restoration of the law that liberates. The robe, once exposed, loses its power, and the living, once awakened, reclaim their rightful place, not as subjects but as sovereigns. Philosophical reclamation. The philosophy of the Flanders Republic Law Group Corp is not a mere critique. It is a radical reclamation. It is a call to awaken from symbolic servitude and return to the source of law as a living expression of truth. It does not seek reform within the system. It seeks liberation from it. Law, in its purest form, is meant to serve life. It is meant to protect the living, honor their sovereignty, and uphold the sacred balance between freedom and responsibility. But the modern legal system has inverted this purpose. It no longer serves life. It controls it. It no longer protects sovereignty. It erodes it. It no longer honors truth. It ritualizes fiction. Symbols are powerful. They shape perception, define roles, and enforce boundaries. But when symbols are misunderstood, they become tools of manipulation. The black robe is one such symbol. It is worn with reverence, but rarely with understanding. It is obeyed, but seldom questioned. It is feared, but not known. The robe, once exposed, loses its mystique. It is not sacred. It is not divine. It is a costume of control, an inherited garment of a forgotten priesthood. Its power lies not in its fabric, but in the ignorance surrounding it. Most who wear it today, judges, attorneys, prosecutors, priests, do so out of tradition. They do not know its origin. They do not know its meaning. They do not know that they are participating in a ritual of dominion, not justice. They wear the robe believing it grants authority. But the robe is not a badge of truth. It is a vestment of Saturnian allegiance. It is designed to bind the living to the dead, to transform sovereign beings into legal constructs, and to enforce a system that thrives on ritual submission. The Flanders Republic Law Group Corp teaches that sovereignty must be reclaimed, not surrendered to ritual. It teaches that symbols must be understood, not blindly obeyed. It teaches that law must serve life, not dominate it. This is philosophical reclamation. It is the unveiling of illusion. It is the restoration of truth. And it begins with the recognition that the robe is not justice. It is a relic. And those who wear it, knowingly or not, are actors in a drama that must now come to an end. How it started, how it came to be. The black robe, now seen as a symbol of legal and religious authority, did not emerge from a vacuum. Its origins stretch far beyond the courtrooms of modern Europe and the pulpits of organized religion. What appears today as a formal garment of solemnity is, in truth, the surviving vestment of ancient ritual, an echo of priesthoods long forgotten, yet still silently governing. Historically, robes were worn by clergy and scholars to denote status, wisdom, and reverence. They were garments of distinction, separating the initiated from the common. In England, judges adopted the black robe following the death of Queen Mary II in 1694, ostensibly as a symbol of mourning. This moment is often cited as the origin of the judicial robe. But it was not the beginning. It was merely a continuation of a much older tradition. The deeper origin lies in the ancient priesthoods of Mesopotamia, Egypt, and Rome, where black garments were worn during rites of judgment, sacrifice, and spiritual dominion. These robes were not decorative. They were symbolic tools. They represented alignment with cosmic forces, particularly Saturn, the planetary archetype of law, restriction, and death. In these rituals, the black robe was worn by those who presided over the fate of others, invoking authority not through consent, but through ritualized power. As empires fell and institutions evolved, these traditions did not vanish. They were absorbed. The priesthood became the judiciary. The temple became the courtroom. The ritual became procedure. And the robe remained. Hidden beneath layers of ceremony, bureaucracy, and tradition, the robe's original meaning was buried. But its power endured. Over centuries, the robe became normalized. It was no longer questioned. It was worn without understanding. Its symbolism faded from conscious awareness, yet its influence persisted. Those who wore it inherited its authority, even if they did not comprehend its origin. They became participants in a ritual they did not design, enforcers of a system they did not create. Today, the robe is seen as a mark of professionalism, dignity, and impartiality. But this perception is a veil. Beneath it lies the truth. The robe is a relic of ancient control. It is the garment of a priesthood that governs through symbolism, not transparency. Its power lies not in law, but in illusion. To expose the robe is to expose the system. To understand how it came to be is to begin the process of reclaiming what was lost, the sovereignty of the living, the truth of law, and the freedom obscured by ritual. The robe may be worn, but its meaning must no longer be hidden. The path forward. The journey towards sovereignty begins with revelation. To reclaim what has been obscured, we must first unmask the robe, not just as fabric, but as symbol. We must pierce the veil of tradition and ritual to uncover the deeper truth, that the robe is not a garment of justice, but a tool of psychological and spiritual control. Understanding its symbolism is essential. The robe represents more than authority. It represents a system built on illusion. It is the uniform of a forgotten priesthood, a relic of Saturnian dominion, and a costume worn by those who unknowingly perpetuate a ritual of subjugation. Its presence in courtrooms, pulpits, and tribunals is not incidental. It is intentional. It is designed to invoke submission, to signal hierarchy, and to transform the living into the governed. We must also understand its history. The robe did not originate in justice. It originated in sacrifice. It was worn by ancient priests who presided over rites of judgment, binding the fate of others through ritual. That tradition was absorbed into modern institutions, hidden beneath layers of bureaucracy and ceremony. Today, it is worn without question, its meaning forgotten, but its power remains. To move forward, we must reject the illusion. We must recognize that true law is living. It is not found in statutes or rituals, but in the natural rights and divine sovereignty of every human being. Living law does not require robes, titles or altars. It requires only truth, consent, and conscience. No symbol can bind the free unless we consent to it. No ritual can override the will of the living unless we submit to its authority. The robe is not sacred. It is a relic. It holds no power over those who see it for what it is. The path forward is not paved by reform. It is carved by reclamation. It is the path of awakening, of remembering, of standing once again as sovereign beings. It is the path of the living rising beyond the costume, beyond the courtroom, beyond the fiction. The robe is not justice. The robe is not truth. The robe is a relic, and the living shall rise beyond it. Closing statement: scriptural truth and the unmasking of darkness. Throughout history, sacred texts have warned humanity against the allure of hidden power, secret oaths, and deceptive rituals. Ancient scriptures do not remain silent on this matter. They speak with clarity and urgency. They condemn the works of darkness, the secret assemblies, and the symbols that bind the living to false authority. In the book of Deuteronomy, we are told, "There shall not be found among you anyone who practices divination, or a medium or a necromancer, for whoever does these things is an abomination to the Lord." Deuteronomy 18 verses 10 to 12. These verses do not merely warn against occult practices, they expose the spiritual danger of seeking power through secrecy and ritual. The New Testament echoes this truth. Have no fellowship with the unfruitful works of darkness, but rather reprove them. Ephesians 5 verse 11. Come out from among them, and be ye separate, saith the Lord, and touch not the unclean thing. 2 Corinthians 6 verse 17. These are not metaphors, they are commands. They call us to reject the systems that operate in shadow, and to walk in the light of truth. The black robe, worn in courts and churches alike, is not a symbol of divine justice. It is the vestment of a forgotten priesthood, one that praises Saturn, not God. It is upheld by secret societies that operate behind closed doors, bound by oaths and symbols that defy transparency and truth. These groups, whether Masonic, Jesuit, or occultic, are condemned by Scripture for their allegiance to hidden power and ritual control too. To awaken the people, we must speak plainly. We must reveal the origins of the robe, the architecture of the courtroom, and the language of legal fiction. We must show that these are not neutral. They are designed to transform the living into the dead, the sovereign into the subject, the soul into a contract. Awareness is the first step. Reclamation is the second. And truth is the weapon. Let the robe be unmasked. Let the rituals be exposed. Let the people rise, not in rebellion, but in revelation. For the law that governs life is written not in statutes, but in the heart. And no secret society, no black robe, no hidden oath can silence the voice of the living once it remembers who it is. The Scriptures have spoken. The symbols have been revealed. The time to choose is now. Thank you, message and AMP. Call to action. Thank you, dear listeners, truth seekers, and sovereign souls, for joining us on this journey of revelation and reclamation. Your presence, your curiosity, and your courage to question the symbols of power are what fuel this movement. If this message resonated with you, if it stirred something deep within, then help us spread the light. Like and follow us on Facebook and Instagram to stay connected and dive deeper into the living law philosophy. Share this content with friends, family, and fellow truth seekers. Every share is a spark that can ignite awareness. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more exposés, interviews, and empowering insights. Hit that bell icon so you never miss a moment of truth. Together, we are unmasking the illusion. Together, we are reclaiming sovereignty. Together, we rise. From all of us at the Flanders Republic Law Group Corp, Thank you. Stay awake. Stay free. Stay living.